Network Next Gen, the podcast, inspiring design industry hustlers. All right, you guys, thank you so much for being here. I appreciate it. We are doing a new format of the NNG podcast. We have such a good time at all of our dinners, and we get into so many topics that we really were trying to figure out how to spotlight some next geners as well from each of our dinners, as well as kind of continue the conversation, keep those topics going and flowing and just revisit them a little bit. So this is our new version of our podcast. It's kind of in a recap style format. And I'm so happy that Tyler Dubreuil and Elyse Ayoung, Elyse, did I say your last name right?
Yep, you got it.
Perfect. I'm so glad that they were able to join us today. This is a recap of our Boston dinner, Network Next Gen Boston, which is a new city for us this year. So we're so excited to be in Boston. This is from our August 9th dinner, and we're just going to do a little recap. We're just going to talk about the dinner and also different topics we liked and continue on. So Tyler, I'm going to throw it over to you. Do you want to introduce yourself? Tell us a little bit about you.
Yeah, so my name is Tyler. I'm 28 years old. I'm a designer at IA Interior Architects in our Boston office. I have been in the industry for about 6 years. I graduated in 2016 from Wentworth Institute of Technology with my BA in design. Is that it?
Yeah, I think that's good.
Yeah, do I stop it there?
That was good. Do you specialize in any certain area? I think the specialty would be cool to share.
Yeah, so right now I work primarily in workplace. I've been doing that for the past few years. And in the past, I've worked in multifamily and asset strategy, kind of doing, building lobbies and amenities of that sort. I've also worked a little bit in hospitality, but I think my main area in design is workplace. It's what I love.
That's great. Okay, I was going to ask you just as a final question, why do you love being a designer? Like, why is this what you do?
I just love shaping spaces. We spend the majority of our time indoors. And I think it's really important for us to think about our environments holistically. And if you don't have a designer working on a project, I just feel like you're not really working for the human being. You're just kind of drawing lines and putting up walls and whatnot. So as designers, we have the ability to shape stories, to shape how people live. And I think it's a really beautiful part of our job.
That's amazing. I love that. Very cool. Thanks for being here. All right, Elyse, you're next up.
Hi, I am Elyse Ayoung. I am in my mid-30s. I will not be saying.
That's how I say it too. I think that's great.
Mid-30s, and I've been in the industry, I'd say about 12 years now in design. I kind of started a little bit earlier on in high school in sort of construction management around my mom. She worked in a construction management firm. So in general, I've been around construction most of my life. I'm currently a designer at Gensler and focused on sort of workplace design as well. When I transitioned to Gensler, I started in workplace design. So I've been doing that for the last sort of 5 years, and it's been a fun ride. Previously, I've worked in healthcare, and I've done some sort of residential, some hospitality. I do have some passion projects on the side, which are mostly residential, and really just like friends asking me to renovate their houses and kitchens and things of the sort. But yeah, happy to be here and chatting with you all again.
That's awesome. Okay, now Elyse, why do you love being a designer? Like, why is this your passion? Why do you do this?
So it's interesting because we kind of just started talking about this internally at Gensler, but also just with friends of like our purpose and our personal purpose and how that aligns with like our career and design purpose. But I would say that like one of the great things about being a designer, to Tyler's point, is really like he said, being able to shape the spaces. What I find fascinating is like looking at how people connect in them, how people feel, sort of the emotions that are tied and connected to space. And like he said, we spend the majority of our time indoors. So if we could create spaces that are one, like whole, 2, like inclusive, and 3, just like really make you feel good. That's the fun part.
I love that. That's great. Okay, cool. All right. Well, let's do a little flashback of the dinner. I was saying August 9th, it was a couple weeks ago, but I always need like a refresher. So we were at Citrus and Salt in Boston, and I thought that restaurant was delicious. What do you guys think? I really like it.
So good, that corn.
Yeah.
Oh.
I'm still thinking of the churros.
On anything, I'm sure everybody would just love it.
It was so good. It was really funny. I was walking out after the dinner and I was waiting for my Uber, and this group of people walked by and they're like, "This is Citrus and Salt. It's supposed to be one of the best restaurants in Boston." And the girl's like, "Really?" And they're like, "Yeah, we got to try it sometime." And I was like, "Oh, okay." So that's not an official like TripAdvisor Yelp review, but it was pretty good in the moment. So shout out to them. They took care of us. But at that dinner, it was great. We had a really good group, and I feel like everyone was just so passionate and so open, which was very cool. I think that group really jived a lot. There were only a handful of people that knew each other. Everyone else was kind of like, I know no one. But everyone really jumped in and were honest. And I thought that was cool. So we'll just go into like a little review quick of some of the topics. And if you guys want to jump in on any points that really stood out to you or that you really thought about after the dinner or during the dinner, I'd love to hear it. One of our first questions was interesting. It was about meetings and like, how do you, if someone's saying something toxic or insulting in a meeting, how do you react? Which I thought was interesting. And that really led us down the kind of like growing as professionals. So not only specific, people wrote down questions about specific things that happened to them, but then also more general. So we had these in different buckets, but some of the career questions were like, how do you ensure you're progressing in your career? Does design, does it fulfill you? Where are you looking to go long term? How do you break out of being pigeonholed in certain roles was like one of the topics as well. And how are you just like not getting stuck based on age or specialty? So those were kind of like career questions people said in general. Then we moved into different ways of that firms are operating post-COVID and post-pandemic. So we had a bunch of firm questions about general kind of operations of firms. And then we moved into our lovely rep conversation and manufacturer conversation about what people want or don't want from reps and manufacturers. And then we kind of closed strong with money talk. So promotions, money, salary, all of that. So I don't know if anything really stuck out to either of you during all of those conversations, and we can definitely dive in deeper, but was there anything that really stuck out to you that you guys want to kind of elaborate on in this talk?
Uh-oh, I thought Tyler was going to kick us off.
Oh, no, sorry. I'm thinking about it.
I think one thing that we sort of both agreed on, one, kudos to you all for hosting such a great and what was great about it, it was intimate. It was the right amount of people, so that I think people felt comfortable in the space to be open. I think once we talk a lot about space, but being able to create an environment where everyone feels comfortable and safe enough to share their stories in an environment where they know that it may not leave that room is great. So that was one of the biggest takeaways, was being able to create sort of that safe space for all of us to be able to like have these open conversations with a myriad of age ranges.
Yeah, totally.
From folks that had just graduated college to like some of us who have been in the industry for 10 plus years. I think that was one of the big takeaways for me, at least, was like hearing from a younger, sort of fresher perspective about, their experiences.
That's awesome. I love that.
I will say, just to add to that, it was really refreshing to see the younger people who have just graduated from college start to ask these questions about their career, and even the fact that they were there was a big step, because I just remember getting, straight out of college, I was kind of shy, didn't know much, and was scared to ask questions, and it was just, they were not scared at all. They were just like, let me put it out there. Like, we're going to get these questions answered, or I want to hear what other people have for their feedback. And it was just really refreshing to see. I just feel like the younger generation is just a little bit ahead, which is really nice. That's what we want for the younger kids.
Right. Well, and also I think that it like says something about what that so are they Gen Z? Do we know like right coming out, or maybe they're like end of millennial, beginning of Gen Z? I'm not sure exactly what Gen Z is, but I think they're like some people that were on the brink. And I think that says a lot about like our generation. I think we're the three of us are in the same generation. We're the millennials, but I think that's kind of cool. I think that means we did a good job of paving the way. So to me, that's always exciting to see people coming out with these kind of questions, because I feel like maybe not to give us too much credit, but I feel like that means maybe we started the conversation in the right way. And I think every generation just needs to start the conversation, because then you're kind of pulling people up with you instead of trying to protect what's yours, right? I don't know if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So, cool. All right. Well, did any of those topics, did anything like when you left the night, was there one topic maybe that you were like, ooh, I really enjoyed talking about this, and I had a few more thoughts on it after?
So I think we were all really interested in sort of the discussion around growth and being able to like be mentored. I think mentoring was a huge topic, and like how to grow in your careers and not sort of be pigeonholed or have certain expectations if you'd like to do something else, but your team or your firm is expecting something different of you. So I thought that stood out, as we spent a lot of time talking about it, but I also started to think more about like growth in your career and how to make sure that you're always sort of being challenged. I think, especially in our like field, I shouldn't say we should, but I sort of always like to remain challenged, be like learning new things. I think that's the best way to stay fresh. So how do we ensure that we're all sort of getting that in our careers, and when to like speak up to say that you aren't?
Exactly.
Or to even know, I guess, there's like 3 tiers to that. How do you even know when you're not getting it?
Yeah.
Well, I feel like if you would know, sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. But I feel like you kind of know when things get a little bit monotonous and you're just at your desk doing the same thing and it's a little bit boring. So like I would suggest talking to the next person above you, whether it's your design director or because they would know, first off, they know what you're doing most of the time. And they're the ones that can help guide you to where you want to go. Say you want to go to a different area of design or do something a little bit different so you're not pigeonholed. I think that would be your best bet versus going for somebody a lot higher up who is dealing with the day-to-day, managing the office versus, managing others.
Totally. And I thought what was interesting about that pigeonholed conversation was people were expressing it in different ways. People felt like they were stuck based on age. Some people felt like they were stuck based on like firm operations. Some people felt like they were stuck based on sector. Like I only did this sector for, hospitality for the last 5 years. Is that what I have to do, or can I switch? So to me, in the Boston convo specifically, the idea of speaking up really was a cool thing that I think different people at different levels were motivating the younger designers and anyone who felt stuck, like just speak up, because you can't do anything. You're pigeonholing yourself, if you don't speak up or try to like go for whatever it is you're trying to avoid. I think that was kind of what I took away from that combo too.
And generally I found too that like moving around, as opposed to like other industries where you kind of like get into a company and there's longevity and you stay, in our industry, I mean, it is good to sort of move around throughout your career to be able to try different project types, because there are firms that specifically only do one project type, right?
Right.
They have like the same sort of clients, but when you're able to like move around in your firm, you're able to understand like, oh, I can work in a small firm, there's medium-sized firms, there's hospitality. That really will help you sort of decide and find your like vibe of like what type of designer that you want to be. But I think it's really important that, you move around. I think I've worked at like 4 different firms. Now I'm on my 4th one. now, but it's really like throughout that process helped me kind of understand like where I actually enjoy the project types, what size firm I actually enjoy, like how big my teams are. I think that's something that's totally needed.
Yeah,
I don't know.
I agree. I agree. Tyler, do you agree with that?
I do. Like you, Elyse, I've moved around. I think this is also like my fourth in my 6 years. So I've moved around a lot. But I've really found that you do find your sweet spot. You know, I started at a much larger firm, then I went to a smaller firm, and now I'm in somewhere in the middle, which is really nice. But also, I want to say, what has helped me, or who have helped me find jobs in the past, have been reps. They know, they know who's hiring. They kind of, just through word of mouth or through working with other firms in the industry, they just know, what would be a great fit for you. So I'd definitely encourage people, if they're looking for jobs, to contact their reps, because they're more than just a resource for work. They could be a good resource for your profession.
I love that. That's awesome. Okay, so one of the areas we talked about were our lovely reps. So you're kind of transitioning us nicely there, Tyler. So thanks for that. I love a good transition. That's great. So from a rep standpoint, we always kind of ask this question at every dinner. What do you want from your reps? What do you not want? What do you like? What do you not like? And that convo got really interesting in Boston. So was there anything that stood out to you guys, or anything that you feel in terms of like reps and like what you like, what you don't like, how you want to engage? I know after COVID and the pandemic, everyone's really trying to figure it out. So would love your perspective in Boston on what you guys think.
Yeah. So I'd say now that I've had some years of experience, I've really grown to enjoy building relationships with the reps. There are often times when we are on projects and we are tight on time, schedule, fee, all of those things that we are all aware of. And we really rely on our reps to help us throughout that process in design. So they're like our design support. And I know that for me personally, I like to build relationships with the reps that and the products that I use the most. But I also don't play favorites. I'm always interested to learn about new products and just connect with the reps in that way. I think what I've found, and the reason why I'm just going to plug the Mid Collective. The Mid Collective started here in Boston, was really to sort of like connect reps and designers, because oftentimes there's always this pathway of like rep, designer, and then like admin roles, and everyone's always like separate, but we're all sort of working towards this same goal and the same mission, and we're on the same projects. We're just doing different things. So it's just more about like being able to stay much more connected and respect everybody's job, whether it's a little bit different. I just think sometimes our industry, like, it's always about design, but there are a lot of other people like reps that are really, really impacting how we create our projects. Without them, we wouldn't be able to create these beautiful sort of impactful spaces.
I love that. What's the Mint Collective, in case people don't know?
The Mint Collective is minorities in interior design here in Boston. And it was started by Nicole. She has a rep group alongside myself. She is Latina. She started this rep group completely on her own. Her and I sort of connected because we realized that there was a need in Boston for sort of all of these like Black and brown folks to connect and meet each other. But through that, we actually started a lot of these open conversations, and we're able to connect with just our industry in Boston as a whole on, again, the topic of like connecting reps and the two designers, understanding that we all do have different roles on projects, but we should just be a little bit more tied, and there shouldn't be like these, like, you're a designer, you're a rep. They don't really mesh.
Yeah. I love that. So the Mid Collective, that's awesome, because I feel like a lot of cities don't have anything like that. So that's really interesting to look at. So very cool. How many times does the Mid Collective meet, or is it kind of organic?
It's organic. We've been a little quiet recently, just because we've both been crazy busy.
Right.
And we'd love to start it back up, but we had a few sort of like open conversations with Beyond the Hashtag with Workflow, which is a dealer here in Boston. So we sort of collaborated with them to host a few conversations. And then we've had a few sort of like meet and greets. But we really wanted it to be organic, didn't want it to feel like this sort of mainstream organization. It really wanted to be sort of this grassroots collective, if you will, of creatives, designers, reps, everyone sort of coming together for the same mission of like the next gen also, and connecting peers.
That's so cool. Awesome. Well, anything we can do to help or get a part of, I feel like that's our vibe too. So that's cool. I love that. All right, cool. Tyler, what do you think on this talk about reps and like manufacturers?
Yeah, reps are so important. It's so funny. I call like every one of the reps my friends. I'm like, yeah, that's my friend. They work over there. They're helping me. But you really do so basically, it's just my background. My aunt is a rep. She's repped multiple lines for a while. And she's the one that really helped me get into the design field back when I was in high school. And she told me how important reps are. They're gonna be there for you when you need something, or there for you to show you what's new and whatnot. I really love the social aspect too of meeting with reps and to Elise's point, we're always going to choose the best product for our projects, and it's nothing against our friends, right? It's just this is what works better for our design, and they get that too. But reps they're just so helpful. If something goes wrong on the project or whatnot, they're the first people to just like either take responsibility or help us find a solution. So I think it's really important to build those relationships early, especially like I have rep friends who I've known since college, and it's just really nice to see how their career is progressing and your career is. It's just highly important. I couldn't emphasize that enough for younger designers. Is get to know your reps. They're going to be helpful. They're going to help if you're looking for a new job. They're going to help you find one. They've always kind of got your back. And you're right, it's a team effort. It's not reps and designers or admin. It's everybody working together towards a goal. And a lot of my rep friends too get excited when a job is finished and they're like, I want to see my product, and I always send them photos. I'm like, here's your flooring. Like, I'd love to show you.
Like it turned out.
Yeah, it looks so good with this wall. And yeah.
I love looking at them as friends too. That really ties together what both of you just said, because like there really used to be this like totally separate group, like it was like kind of almost like a fight. It felt like designers being like, no, you can't come in, and like reps just like pushing, whatever it was.
Mm-hmm.
But the way you're both describing it, I think that's like how it's supposed to be. Like we're helping each other, right? Like they need to help you, you need to help them. Like I think that synergy is really cool. So that's really fun.
Yeah.
I love to hear that. All right, cool. So then the kind of the last topic we talked about, which we saved the best for last, is the money topic. So, I think that doesn't get talked about often. And that's why, to me, that's been really important in the Network Next Gen dinners, is like actually having a space where, Elyse, thank you for calling it really safe, like just kind of a safe space where people can talk about money, because everyone at the end of the day, it's a job, it's a passion, but it's also a job, and you're getting paid, and being able to know
and we live in Boston, and it is pricey to live here.
I was going to say, so Boston prices, because people are going to be listening from all over. Is the cost of living similar to like New York, a little under New York? How would you like place Boston's cost of living and like expenses in Boston?
I think it's comparable to New York.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think New York rents are maybe higher, but otherwise everything else. That's the reason why I moved to Rhode Island. So,
so expensive. A lot of people seem to live kind of on like outside, or almost like, I don't know. I was trying to get, Boston's so new for us. I was trying to get a gauge. Do most designers kind of live around the city, or do a lot live downtown? I'm sure it's mixed, but
it's so mixed. And I think it is partly due to one, that the city has become incredibly expensive to sort of sustain living here. But then two, when we were in the pandemic for sort of like 2.5 we're now going into the third year, a lot of people realized I don't necessarily need to be in the city, and I would like a bit more space, and I could get, more for my money if I sort of live on the outskirts. So I think we've seen a mix now of people still in the city, and then folks who have like kind of ventured out a little bit, but are just a train ride, away.
Right away. Okay, let's do this because I think we can maybe do this in every episode. What is do you know the average cost of like a 1-bedroom apartment in Boston? I mean, I'm sure this is just like from what you feel. This wouldn't be like 100% accurate, but what's the vibe? Because maybe that helps us put like cost of living, like price point.
I want to say it's probably like 1900.
Ooh, honey.
No.
No.
Like,
maybe
no.
3 years ago it was.
You could get a studio, a really small studio for 1800. I think if you want a nice apartment, 1-bedroom in Boston, you are looking at between like 24 to 26.
Wow, that's why you
like a
Rhode
new
Island, Tyler.
That's why I bought a house.
No.
Wow,
Newly developed like building, definitely. If you want a little, character, elevator, might be some questionable critters,
You can get 1800. Yeah.
Okay, so that's kind of like the 18. Okay, interesting. Okay. That kind of helps place, I think, cost of living, because everyone thinks their city is expensive, but that gives that is getting up there. So, okay. So on the topic of money, what do you guys think? Like, what is your vibe on that conversation? Asking for promotions, negotiations, was there any big part of that you took away from that night?
I mean, when we were comparing, how many years of work versus salary, I think it was we were all pretty much around the same, the same value, which was really nice to see. There was a couple people who worked a little bit longer, which, they should have a higher salary. So it gave us kind of also a look into the future of where we might be at that time, or I'm guessing inflation's going to be worse, so we can ask for more.
Okay, so that was good. So actually using the numbers was super helpful for you guys. Okay, cool.
Especially since we're all at different firms, I think it's just helpful to understand what the value is around. And it seems like we were all sort of on par, like a range within 5K, which is understandable based on the firm type, project type, and sort of the size. But I think also because we had a range of years of experience, and the conversation kind of went around, how do you ask for a raise or a promotion if there's not something sort of set in place. I think when I was a lot younger in my career, I was always really nervous about how to ask for more or how to ask for a raise, especially coming from an immigrant family. You are just happy that you have this great job at this great firm, and you don't want to lose that, right? So I think in the earlier part of my career, I was always this is great, this is good, I'm fine, everything's fine. But understanding your value and your worth and what you actually bring forth to the firm, to projects, to your teams, will sort of help you empower you to just, and the worst that can happen is they say no and you negotiate, but at least you actually spoke up for yourself and advocated for yourself. So I think that it's important. I would suggest to those that are younger, it is so important to advocate for yourself. There are things that I wish I was able to do when I was younger and kind of knew this, but definitely that advocating for yourself is important.
Oh, it's so important. I feel like if you don't ask for it, then it won't come to you. I mean, it's the nature of any business, right? They seem fine with their salary, so we're just going to keep going as usual. And it's not until you speak up for yourself and say, I believe that I should get this amount of percentage added on to my salary. I think I'm worth this. If you go in with the different points of why you think you deserve it, then I think that they also really respect that. which is really nice. I've had a conversation like that, and I felt really good afterwards. At least speaking up for yourself and looking out for yourself, because nobody else is going to.
Mhm.
No, 100%. Yeah, agreed. All right, so let's close out this way. What is one thing you would say to this like next gen group? So that could be our current group and the next generation. What do you guys want to say? What's kind of your thoughts on this whole next generation topic?
I would say have fun. Honestly, it really or else you will stress yourself out. Do not be stressed. But I would say always find joy in the work that you're doing. You may be on projects that are not as exciting, but find joy in even the smallest things that you're doing. And it would make you and your work feel that much better. Two would always be to sort of advocate for yourself. We just spoke about that. And then the third thing is to always have something that is not related to design or your job that you're doing as well, so that you just feel like you have a well-balanced sort of life, because work can sometimes be consuming.
That's really good. I really like that. That was powerful, Elyse.
It was.
Nice.
How do I follow up?
I think you got something in there. You got something in there.
Tyler, what do you think?
Well, I would say, networking is the most important thing. Just getting your name out there. At least our community is so small. So you go to a networking event and you feel like you know everybody. You can't even walk to the bar without, talking to 10 different people. And then you go to the bar and you're like, what did I want to order? I don't know. Yeah. But I think it's so important because, you're going to get your name out there, you're going to build these connections, and it's only going to help you. And I also agree with Elyse, it's like finding something that is not designed for a hobby. You don't want your work to become your hobby and that's like your only thing. So for me, it's like music or gardening. I think it's really nice to get home at the end of the day. And I love designing. It's my passion. It's why I went into it. But there's something nice about not thinking about it. And I think as creatives, you need to also shut off your brain because we use it all day. We're constantly trying to figure out challenges in design or how things work together or detailing. And it's just so important to shut off your brain. And that's hard for me because I'm on vacation right now and I'm painting my garage because I just need something to do, right? So it's so hard to shut off your brain. So I think that's also really important, especially for the younger generation or anybody in any field.
I love that. That's great. Okay, so we'll close this way too. I want to ask you one last question. We got like 3 minutes. Elyse, what is one thing you love about Boston, living in Boston? Because if people don't know Boston, maybe they don't have any idea. Is there anything that stands out to you about this is why I love Boston?
I would say Boston in the summer, being close to the water, seafood, oysters, lobsters. That's the one thing I enjoy. Boston summers for me are the most enjoyable, and the winters are not.
I love that you said lobsters. Lobsters.
Lobsters. I had to, throw that Boston accent in there.
That's great. That's awesome. Tyler, what about for you?
Oh my God. I do love Boston summers, but I love the fall even more. And I love that, nature is just so close to the city. There's so many beautiful parks. The weather is pretty nice, except for the hot, humid summers and the winter. I mean, I know Elyse loves the heat and humidity, but I can't stand it. And the winters are terrible, but the fall,
in between.
Yeah, the fall is where it's at. Fall fashion. The food is pretty good in Boston too, and the architecture is beautiful.
Yeah. Oh my gosh,
It's
that's awesome.
very walkable. I think the good thing about Boston too, it is so walkable, and also you are able to experience different neighborhoods in a day if you actually wanted to, by just walking along a path. So that's one of the nice things about it being a little bit smaller than some of the big cities.
Yeah, that surprised me. I think that was my takeaway when I was in Boston, was I didn't realize it was so compact. So that actually made it really great to get around and easy to digest. So that was good. But awesome. Well, thank you guys so much for doing this. You're the first episode of the NNG recap. So thanks for jumping in. Sometimes that's hard to jump into something. You're like, I don't know what I'm putting myself into, but
learn from us for the next one. You know, folks, don't make the same mistakes we made. But hopefully and I will definitely put makeup on for the next one.
Oh my gosh, you look gorgeous. You look
beautiful.
All right, awesome. Well, thank you guys so much. And I'll see you back in Boston sometime soon. Thanks for being on.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye. See you.
Bye.